morning, everyone. My name is Keith Irving, and I'm the MLA for Kings South, and I'd like to welcome you all here this morning. I'm going to act as a bit of an MC for this morning's announcement. I'd like to begin by welcoming all of you. I understand there are many folks from various organizations that work in partnership to address many of the issues and concerns that we're talking about today. I understand there's some folks from Chrysalis House and obviously the Red Door who are hosting us today, and the Women's Center in Yarmouth, I believe, has traveled up for this important announcement today. I'd also like to recognize my colleague, Mr. John Lohr, from the MLA from Kings North, who has joined us, and of course our Premier, Stephen McNeil, has come and joined Minister Bernard here in Kings County to make this very, very important announcement. So with not many words from me, I'll move right to our Premier, Stephen McNeil, who knows Kings County well, and I welcome him back to make this announcement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keith. It's certainly great to be at Kings Tech. Let me tell you how proud we are of our community colleges across this province. As I was walking in with a friend of mine, I asked when was the last time you'd been in Kings Tech, and it was a year ago, because I must tell you the transformation of these campuses is unbelievable to me. As a student of one of them, not yesterday, but a number of years ago. And these are great institutions, not only for us to be able to make great community announcements and great provincial announcements, but institutions that our sons and daughters get an opportunity to find skills that provide them with full employment here in our great province. So let me say thank you to all of you who are here with Kings Tech for allowing us into your learning institution and part of your community to make this announcement. So thank you very much. Mr. Bernard, it's great to be here with you to make this announcement. This is the beginning for us to launch the province's first sexual violence strategy. We saw the need for a strategy that would provide better access to supports for sexual assault survivors and work to prevent sexual violence from happening in the first place. Our government announced a $6 million commitment over 3 years to support these efforts to address this serious issue. Sexual violence is a traumatic and pervasive problem in all society, and our province is no exception. Today, I'm proud to share Nova Scotia's first plan to address sexual violence. Our strategy calls on Nova Scotians to work together to better understand and prevent sexual violence in our communities. Actions have been identified under the following 3 categories. Number 1, service and supports, education and prevention, and approach and accountability. This plan is about working together to make sure all victims and survivors have access to compassionate care and support, and working to reduce sexual violence in our communities in the first place. Shortly after our government announced plans for a 3-year sexual violence strategy, Jeannie Flynn and Renee Ross, and Renee is here with us today, began to work on its development. I thank them for their contributions and efforts on behalf of all Nova Scotians for laying a strong foundation for this strategy's work as it continues. In the past year, we've heard from approximately 1,000 people in how we should approach this issue. This guidance and expertise and experience provide the basis for the strategic action that we're announcing today. Sexual violence is a complex issue, and we know we have a lot of work to do. It will take a response from all of us, service providers, survivors, community organizations, all levels of government and citizens to effectively address the causes and prevent sexual violence in our province. We heard loud and clear that we need more public awareness and education on this issue. This strategy has measures that will do just that. We recognize that we all need to change our understanding and our attitudes. No single government, organization, or community organization can make this change on its own. It will require a collaborative approach on all of us. We have to work together and make space for all of those voices to be heard. In order to achieve this, we now have 2 provincial committees that will begin developing public awareness and training resources. The community engagement will continue through 9 community support networks and will focus on providing visible, accessible, and inclusive supports for victims, survivors, and the people supporting them. This map outlines the 9 areas in the province where community support networks will do their work. No part of Nova Scotia will be left behind. This work will be done with communities under the leadership of our new provincial specialist, who Minister Bernard will introduce to all of you in a moment. We need to ensure that victims get the support they need in a way that works for them. And as Premier, I want to ensure all Nova Scotians understand that effectively addressing sexual violence remains a commitment of our government, but it will require the collaboration of each and every Nova Scotian to continue to have an open conversation about what for far too long we've been unwilling to talk about. We as a province can lead this country in dealing with sexual violence in our communities, in our homes, and across this province, and we can set a model. Today, I believe we're on the path to do just that. Thank you for letting me be part of this announcement.
Thank you, Premier. I would now ask that Minister Joanne Bernard, Minister of Community Services, come and highlight some of the key aspects and introduce our new specialist. Minister Bernard.
Thank you, and good morning. I'm delighted to be here with you this morning as we launch the province's first sexual violence strategy. It's a day that I and many others have looked forward to for many years in this province. This strategy is the result of the tremendous leadership, advocacy, and dedication of the many individuals and organizations across this province. It embraces our commitment to community engagement and shared action. It provides the foundation for us to ensure we continue to connect with the collective skills, passion, and resources needed to address this very complex issue. And those conversations need to continue. In the past year, we have learned that services need to address the unique needs of the LGBTQ, Aboriginal, and African Nova Scotian communities. While we continue to support the disproportionately high number of female victims and survivors, we know that we must also recognize and support male victims and survivors. Simply put, there is no singular experience of sexual violence, and therefore there can be no single one-size-fits-all response to it. We also heard that this issue belongs to no one organization. I'm pleased to say that the actions that we have developed for the coming year will address these needs, and they will do so in collaboration with communities, service providers, victims and their supporters, and government. It will take all of our efforts. We heard that many victims of sexual violence simply don't know where to turn. We will work with existing support lines to create accessible 24/7 support focused on sexual violence, which will be easy to access in a time of crisis. Many of the youth we spoke to said that they don't want to get help through phones or face-to-face services. So we will be exploring new technologies and how they can help survivors reach out in different ways that are comfortable for them. The work of the 9 community support networks will be crucial in ensuring that the province works together with communities to identify the available resources, thus guaranteeing these support networks are visible, accessible, and tailored to local needs. This will help victims and those supporting victims to know where to turn for support when needed. The new provincial committees on public awareness and training will develop resources and materials to be available across all sectors province-wide. This will support the work within the community support networks by bringing consistency, clarity, and building shared understanding as we address this issue. All materials will be under a trauma-informed lens. I'm confident that through the work of the community support networks, provincial committees, and other organizations that we will develop a groundbreaking public awareness campaign and training materials which will be impactful and encourage a shift in attitudes and spur action. We want those providing support, both formally and informally, to have the comfort and resources to provide compassionate care and support. Since we are being hosted by the Red Door and its partner, the Nova Scotia Community College, I want to take a moment to focus on the critical importance of youth and the innovation as we address this issue. Throughout our community conversations with youth, we heard that young Nova Scotians are eager to assume leadership on this issue. We know that youth are at a higher risk of experiencing sexual violence, yet we learned many of the programs and services are not offered in a way that is comfortable or accessible to them. We also learned that their understanding of the meaning of consent and what healthy relations look like can really vary. It only makes sense that when you're looking for a solution to a problem, you involve the people most infected. That's best practice. In the case of sexual violence, youth engagement is critical. We are fully committed to ensuring that the strategy continues to foster and develop youth engagement and leadership. That's why I'm particularly excited about the Provincial Innovation Fund. This funding is not intended towards supports that are already available. This is about finding new and non-traditional ways to reach Nova Scotians. If a student council has an idea for an awareness campaign for their school, we want to help to make it happen. If a community group or a youth organization has a creative or innovative approach to increasing understanding about consent, we want to hear about it. Quite simply, there's no better avenue to effect real change than from youth themselves. Many of us here today know that. This is an opportunity for youth to redefine attitudes and misconceptions within their peer groups, wherever they may be. I encourage organizations that have ideas, whether they've been involved in this issue before or not, to put their proposals forward. Shaping this work will be our new provincial specialist, Sarah Granke. Sarah, could you please stand up? I want to welcome Sarah to this role and to Nova Scotia. Sarah brings a unique skill set to our department that will weave the multiple threads of this work together. Sarah recently completed a master's in social work with a clinical focus on trauma recovery from sexual violence, and she has a decade experience at community grassroots level of working in the LGBTQ community and diverse youth populations in the area of sexual health education and related issues. I'm looking forward to watching how her expertise, creativity, and passion will drive the work of the sexual violence strategy forward and ensure that we do not lose sight of the goals we have set out. Sexual violence is a complex issue, and we have much work to do in many areas. Nova Scotians reminded us that the pathway to support is connected through relationships. We need to address this together, and that's what we are committed to doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I'd now like to ask Tara Newcomb, the co-chair of the Red Door, to come and provide a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm the co-chair of the Red Door. The Red Door is a youth sexual health center here in Kentville, and it's been providing services to youth aged 13 to 30 in Kings and Annapolis for the past 23 years. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. We're fortunate to have a very unique demonstration project here in the Valley. The Red Door hosts this project in partnership with Chrysalis House, and many other of the community partners are here today. NSCC was one of those partners that has allowed us to use the space today, so thank you for that. We live in a rural area that creates natural barriers and many social justice issues. In partnership with our diverse networks in the community, we possess the connections and capacity to provide the network of accessible services for diverse populations over a wide geographical area. We also recognize the importance of engaging youth in the ability to truly shift the current culture of sexual violence. By inviting youth to voice their thoughts on how to improve service supports and what services they need, that will help inform our local demonstration project as well as larger provincial strategy. We're very pleased to have you all here today, and again, I'm very nervous, I'm sorry. Please stay afterwards if you have any questions about the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Well, that concludes the formal part of today's announcement. I'd like to thank you all for coming from all parts of the province, and thank you to NSCC for hosting us. Thank you for the Red Door and your comments this evening, and all the work, the important work that you do now and now into the future with this new strategy. So thank you and your partners for the important contribution you make to Nova Scotia. So I'd like to ask folks to stay around, enjoy a few refreshments. There's some copies of the report, and the media will, of course, be interviewing the participants of today's announcement. So thank you again for all for coming.